Congratulations on finishing your revision exercise. How was it? Is the last 2 days, all those things all coming into one coherent picture for you? Now, don't worry about it. It will take you some time to sort of piece all the things together. So the purpose of this video is to take you through the thought processes of how to break down the issue at hand, which is to define like the what behind the things that you want, the outcome that you want, and then for the little steps that go into creating it and all the whys behind it. Okay, so for this exercise, we have taken data from the STB tourist arrivals. We got it from SingStat, and we have three of them here. You have also 17, 18, and 19 data. Okay, so and what we want to do is to be able to build an automated workflow such that anytime, let's say if 2020 visitor arrivals come in, we just shove it into this folder, hit the refresh button, and all the data will be clean and consolidated together with the previous years. Okay, so let's take a look at how the data looks like at the back end. Okay, so we can see over here we have some first couple of rows. Do I really need that? Maybe not. Okay, what do I see here? So I don't really need this first three rows. Let's take a look. What about anything else down there? Okay, all these things I don't really need as well. Okay, but I can also observe that I have, let's say, this row 5 over here that shows me the various months of the year, okay, which I will need because they are all corresponding to some numbers here. Now, other than that, I noticed that there are sort of nested hierarchies of sorts. Like there's a total number here, but then there are these sort of like regions as well. So you've got Southeast Asia, these are some of the countries, and then the others. You've got Greater China comprising these, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all these things I'm pretty sure I'll need them. Okay, but we need to find a way to get rid of everything else that we don't need. Okay, so based on what you learned so far, looks like there are a couple of things we could probably do straight away, right? So over here, these couple of rows, we probably don't need it. Okay, then over here we can see there's like this going across. This reminds you of a pivot table, right? Now, in order for you to consolidate things together, to stack on top of one another, you probably can't have it in a pivoted way. So we probably will be thinking something along the lines of unpivot. Okay, now the challenge was also later on, we need to be able to show countries, but also show the regions. Right now they are sort of nested together. There must be a way somehow to separate them, maybe. Okay, so these are some of the things that I have in mind right now. Perhaps I could, just annotate something for myself, just to keep myself grounded on what I would like to do. So maybe I would say, okay, first I could remove top rows that we don't need. Number 2, maybe there's some way to remove the bottom rows. Okay, what else? Somehow we might need to get the months into the headers so that we can do an unpivot, right? And somehow, somewhere, I'm not too sure, should it be done later or earlier, we'll figure out as we go along. I know we also need to be able to segregate the country names from the region names. Okay, so there are some other rows that we don't need as well. For example, we need to find a way to remove the total rows as well, right? The total international visitor in row 6 that you see right now. Okay, we don't need those summed up stuff, we just need the raw data per se. Okay, so these are some of the things that, this is the kind of what's that we want to achieve. Okay, so with that, let's get started. So I'm just going to start from a blank slate here right now. And the fact that we are going to set up a workflow so that whatever new data comes in, it would apply the same things, then I'm guessing we would want to use, how about from folder? Let's start with from folder, and then we take a sample file and we do all the steps that we want to clean on it. Okay, so I'm going to do here from file, from folder. And then the question is, okay, where is this folder? It is over here. It's in a revision. Specifically, it's STB tourist arrivals. Go ahead, hit OK. And yes, these are the things that I want, and I'm going to go to combine and transform data. Okay, so I do want the things to be combined, and the sample file is asking me, I'll take just the first file. This is good, all right, and I'm going to hit OK, and then we have our Power Query Editor window showing up. Okay, now notice on the left hand side, because I chose a from folder and I also asked it to combine and transform. So combine, when I do that, the computer would already write all these things for me first, and I can see the combined outcome here. But as you can tell, it's not going to work, right? Yes, I can see them all combined here, but it's not cleaned up. Okay, so instead of combining them and then I clean them, I'm going to work on cleaning a sample file first. So over here, you'll see transform sample file. I'll go to this, okay, and I'll work with just this. So you can, if you want to trace where is this sample file coming from, it was the first file of this folder over here, right? The first file is 2017. If you want to be sure, you can also check. All right, you can see transform sample file. Where's it coming from? You can take a look at the. It's like, okay, the source is from parameter 1 something something. So what's parameter 1? You can click on parameter 1. And parameter 1 says sample files. Like, okay, but sample file is what? So I'm going to look at sample file, and you can see sample file is here. And you can see it's coming from your folder, from folder to this particular folder. And it navigated to the first one, right? M is a base 0 language. So the first file, it sourced the first row. And you can see visitor arrivals 2017. Okay, so we are working on the 2017 file over here. So what can we do? Let's see. So my plan was, okay, I've done from folder. I don't really need the top rows, so how can I easily get rid of it? Well, we can simply just say, well, remove top rows. We're just going to get rid of 4 because the rest of the files are also the same layout, first 4 rows. I don't need them. Okay, what else? Okay, there are the bottom rows that I want to get rid of as well, but they seem to be, like, it's kind of irritating. Then I have to keep like unchecking one by one. Is there a better way? Well, let's see. How about I do other things that I can do first? What about this one? Getting the year months into the headers. I could, because I want to eventually get to unpivot state. So I could say use first row as headers. So I push it up, and then you have all these on top already. Okay, so these things are variables. Okay, that's fine. What else? So if I look at it, once I push it up, all these things are still there. How am I gonna get rid of this? It's kind of irritating, right? If I have to, filter so many things out. Is there something that I can use to distinguish between the kind of things that I want to keep from the things that I don't? So what are the things that I want to keep? Probably things like your country and your region. Now, how do they look different from things that are not country or region? Okay, if I look at here, how are they different? Have you seen it? Have you seen a visual difference? Okay, so this is what I've identified. I figured as long as they were countries or regions, they have this space before them. Okay, so I just click on Southeast Asia, and I click here, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 spaces. I could also just copy that, and what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say I am going to filter for, I want to only keep, okay, so I want to have it begins with, it has to begin with the spaces. So I just pasted, I Control V to paste the spaces, and I'll click OK. Right now, it will only have those lines, the rows where it has started with the 5 spaces. I just click and take a look at it. Right, all these that I want. Okay, there's something that I don't want here. Okay, and maybe it's easier right now that I could just uncheck this and get rid of that. Okay, great. So I have done this one. I've gotten rid of the stuff that I don't need. Okay, so right now, could I do unpivot? Not quite. I think we need to deal with this first. Okay, so we've done that as well. Remove total rows is done. So now we're left with these two. Okay, I need to be able to segregate the country names from the region names, right? Because when we want to get things in tabular form, you want just one column on region, one column on country. We can't have this like that. What might you do to get it out? Like we need to be able to somehow find a way to tease out just these things into a new column. Again, how do regions look different from countries? So I am going to use the same trick over here, right? So I'm going to just copy all that space before a country name. And what I want to do is eventually to get to a tabular form. So a tabular form would mean that beside every country name, it needs to have a column that also has the regions, right? Beside every of this thing. Okay, so somehow my plan is I'm going to be finding a way to fish this thing out, okay, fish it out and plonk it into a column and get it to fill all the way until the next one where it hits like Greater China. Is this sparking an idea already? Okay, so I'm going to use add column and a conditional column. And I'm going to say if this thing contains all that spaces, okay, then I want to, do I want to say does not contain? Okay, if it doesn't contain all those things, then I want it to return me this, which is the region. Okay, if not, I want it to give me a null. So let's see what happens. Aha, there you have. If, okay, that particular column, it contains the many spaces. Oh, if it doesn't contain, sorry, the text contains, if not text contains, right? So if it doesn't, it will pull out this. If it does, then it'll give me null. Why do I want the nulls? Well, simply because I want it to be able to fill down, right? So that I can populate everything. Okay, now I don't like all that spaces before that, so I could easily trim to get rid of the leading and trailing spaces, and just in case they are non-predictable characters, I could use clean as well. Okay, so now that I have this, okay, what might I want to do? Okay, I still have this Southeast Asia. Do I need this kind of this kind of aggregated numbers? I don't want them. Okay, you want to be at the most granular form, which is the country. So perhaps I could then say, what if I just want to contains or begins with, I only want to keep those stuff beginning with the many spaces. And once I click OK, you'll realize only the countries are left. Okay, only the countries are left. So at this point, I'm also going to clean this up. So I'm going to trim, get rid of all those spaces and clean as well. Okay, and then I am going to check. Okay, so I have all these things that I want already. And what's left right now? Let's take a look. Okay, so what's left right now is I need to unpivot. So when we do unpivot, we need to then say, okay, which are the columns that we want to sort of hold constant? And then which are the others that we want to make into attribute value pairs? Okay, so attribute value pairs, what we're talking about, we are saying, I want the February, okay, to pair up with this one. Okay, I want February to pair up with this one so that it would appear in nice tabular columns. Okay, so in that case, I would say I want to hold this constant. I'm going to the end. I want to hold this constant as well. Okay, and I am going to unpivot other columns. Okay, so once I do that, I unpivot other columns. This is what I get. Okay, and it looks pretty much almost there. A couple of things to do. So we need to then put this as a country, and this one would be a region. This one, it's gonna be, I would say, month, and I could change it to the date format. Okay, and it would just auto give me the first of the month. All right, and over here I could say visitor arrivals. Okay, right, so this is a transformed sample file, and this is only for 2017. Now let's go and check. I'm going to go to this one, which is consolidated one, and you realize that, hey, it's some error going on. It's happening here. It says it can't find column 1, but I don't really need to change type right now, so I'm just going to remove that first. And then you'll notice this. There's some unexpected error. What's going on? Let me trace back. Okay, so we come back here and we notice, oh, table, this is working okay. Why is there an error for 2018? Okay, so we have this problem over here. 2017 general table wasn't found, okay? And it's a transform file query thingy. So maybe we might need to come back here and take a look. Where did we have anything that specifically dealt with January 2017? Let's go back and take a look. And we can go through these. No, not here. Let's take a look. Look at this. Alright, so that's why I say every time when a computer gives you a change type automatically, please don't accept it. Alright, it may not be needed. And if you look at it, do we need to change type so early on in a fourth step? We don't. Okay, because we're still sort of beating the data into all the shapes that we need. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to remove this change type. Yes, go ahead and do that. Okay, and I'm just going to check that it's still working. Great. I'm going to come to here and I'm going to take a look. Oh, this looks quite okay. I could just come back here as well, take a look. Alright, these things are all working well, and then it would have expanded everything for me. Now this thing has the source name, you could keep it here. And for the rest, it looks to be working well, but you'll notice that they are still not with the correct data types. You could set them one by one, or if you like to be lazy, you could also just use detect data type. Okay, now if you press detect data type by only selecting this, then they would only detect for this. If you want, you could do Control A, select all of them, and then you press detect data type. Okay, but once you do that, please check that they have changed the data type to the types that are really fit for use. Okay, sometimes they may detect it wrongly. Okay, so in that case, I'm happy with the data types over here. And if this is good, if I want to keep, I could keep the source name. If not, I don't need the source name. I could say, select all these that I want to keep and remove other columns. And then I could go to home, close and load. I'm always going to choose close and load too, because I want to always make myself be aware, of the decision I'm going to make. Am I going to load it to a create connection only, or do I want to actually see it in a table? So let's say I want to be able to export this to and share it with somebody else as a raw data source. So I'm going to make it like a table. So it's going to be in a new worksheet in a table. I click OK, and you have this over here. Okay, now of course, if you want to just do a pivot table, you could do that as well. You could just come here and say insert pivot table, and it's it would have selected this for you. Or for those of you who are on Office 365, I could also choose a load to, let's say, a pivot table report. Okay, and to an existing worksheet. Yep, I could get rid of that. And you could come here as well. And then I could put, let's say, months. And then I would put visitor arrivals here. Okay, and then so I could, let's say, have, well, let's look at the grouping. I don't need the quarters. I could do years and months, or I could just do years. And I could see it like that. Okay, and then you have your numbers over here. If you have to format it, of course, just go ahead and do that. Alright, and you have your visitor arrivals.